Hello everyone, welcome to Education for Next Generation. Myself, I am Mrs. Mini Saji. Today going to tell you about our 10th class topic, that is our environment and our concern. As we all are living organism, we are familiar about our surroundings, what is happening. We know that which are the living components in our surrounding and which are non-living components of our surrounding. We call all the living components as a biotic and non-living components as abiotic component. So all these biotic and abiotic components together, they are making our environment. So we can say that environment is that which is the sum of physical and the biological factors, and plus you can add it that chemical interaction between the organism is there, that whole together makes up our environment. So basically we are classifying our environment with abiotic and biotic components. Now let us have a look on that, the smallest view of that. Suppose we are taking example of a habitat. That we know that habitat is a place where that all living organisms can naturally survive and they can reproduce also. That natural place is considered as that habitat. Habitat, from that more bigger structure we will go, which is the more one, we can call it as an ecosystem. And more elaborate way we will go means that is the biosphere, where we can take it the example of all the living organisms which can survive here. So all living organisms come under here. So let us have a look on that. What are the biotic and abiotic components are there here? Yes, habitat is a place where you can find it some living organisms and some non-living organisms. So living organisms which will make up our this all environment, that is we call it as biotic factors. So biotic factors, in that all living organisms come under this, like all that plants, animals, including that microorganisms. Abiotic component. Or factors, or you can say components. Components which are there, we can call them as, you can take it example of sunlight or light, which is a non-living factor and it is essential for living organism to survive. Water is not a living, but without water any living organism cannot survive. Air, temperature, and heat, soil, rocks, whichever we find it which is surrounding to us. These all are make up our abiotic components of our surroundings, and these two are required for that all the living organisms to the survive. So it is a environment is considered as the which is biotic and abiotic factor, both should be together in that. Then such a kind of place you can call it as habitat, or more bigger where many habitats are there, we call it ecosystem. So many ecosystems where are present, we call it biosphere. So biosphere we are considering about that entire planet, all the living organisms which are there in that is comes under that biosphere. Now let us have a look on that, how the organisms are interlinked with each other, or how that you can find it abiotic and biotic components interaction takes place, such as living organisms and between living organisms. If their interaction is there, then we will call it, we can find it two types of interaction here. That one is interspecies interaction, second one is called as intraspecies interaction. So interspecies interaction, when between the two different species, like when interaction is there, either for it is for the source of food competition between, or resources purpose competition is there, or else reproduction purpose competition is there. This all comes under that your interspecies interaction between two different species of animals or two different species of plants. Between when there is a competition for survival, we will call it such interaction as a interspecies interaction. intra-species interaction is also a one that is also happens in that any environment. That is, intra-species means the same species between. The same species, take example of all the herbivorous animals living in a one place. All herbivorous animals are only present in a garden or in a dairy farm. So what will happen? All are herbivorous, they will eat same type of food, they share the same resources, everything there will be a similarity. So there will be a competition for food, for shelter and for reproduction, or we can say that for mating purpose there will be a competition. Such competition is when it takes place between the same species of two different organisms between, that is called as your intra-species interaction. Suppose in a one place or a one forest you can find it some herbivores are there, some carnivorous animals are there, and some are scavengers are there. So in between these different species of animals, when there is an interaction either for food or for resources purpose, then such interactions are called as interspecies interaction. So these interactions we can find it in the living organisms. Living or not only the living organisms between interaction is there, but interaction also takes place between living and non-living components in a environment. Because we are sharing many things in that in environment with that abiotic component also. For example, take that air. Without air, we living organisms cannot survive that. We need air, we need oxygen, we need water, we need sunlight or temperature, soil where we are standing, rocks or heat. These all are the resources is that abiotic components, and we can find it interdependency will takes place between abiotic and biotic components also in an environment. So these all relationships we are going to see that in how that one animal is depending to other animal and how they are going to develop a food chain and a food web. So here we can find it a interspecies interaction, simultaneously intraspecies interaction also. So let us have a look on that. Now let us see that interrelationship between that food. When any organism is linked, or you can say show a relation for the purpose of food, when one organism is depend on the other organism for food, then we call it food chain. Then single one food chain, in that we can see that main producers, you can find it primary consumers, secondary consumers or tertiary consumers. In some of the food chain we can see that 4 levels are there, and some of that you can see the 5th also as a topmost carnivore. So if food purpose, if we see that many animals have interlinked with each other for food purpose, so such a single one chain is called as food chain. When one organism is depending on other organism for food, and there will be a interlink, we can see that between that organism, such is called, such kind of interlinked of the food chain is called as food web. Now let us have a look on the terrestrial and aquatic food chain. We can see terrestrial as well as aquatic food chain also. So here you can see the terrestrial one, these are the terrestrial food chain, and here you can find it aquatic food chain. Just you can find it here that in soil we can see some of them which are as a decomposers, usually this is the mushroom or fungus, and bacteria are decomposers. Some of that soil living creatures, they are also very good decomposers that, and they bring back the nutrients to the soil. Producers are usually the plants which they will trap the sunlight and they do photosynthetic process, and after photosynthetic process they prepare food for themselves simultaneously for the other organisms, those are depending on it. Herbivores are that next level. So here we can see herbivores are the such animals, those are depending on food for the plants. Now herbivores after next levels are coming as your primary, the herbivores are considered as that primary consumers. And then next level is that your secondary consumers. So here they will be primary predators also. So they are depending on that herbivorous animals for food. So we can call them as that secondary consumers. And secondary consumers on the top we can find it the tertiary consumer, which is the secondary predator also, and it is the more powerful one. So here in this pyramid structure we can see that producers are more in number. Then you can find more less number of herbivore, more less number is that secondary consumer or primary predators we call them, and then you can find the topmost will be the very much narrow, which is that secondary predator or tertiary consumer. So here you can see it, this one is making it like a pyramid structure here that. Now when you can find it aquatic and this one terrestrial, you can find it many type of interaction in between the animals or many type of food chains we can see that in terrestrial one. Plants, they are small, that insects, that is you can say crickets or grasshoppers or other insects, those are depending on plants. They are the, you can see that these are the primary consumers. From that, those will eat this one like beetles and other ants, which are that comes under secondary one. Then again you can see the next chain in that frogs are there, frogs will feed on this all insects. Then snakes are there, snakes will feed on frogs, and again eagle or hawk you can see they will feed on that snake. So this is the one chain of that food chain. It is a terrestrial one. Second one you can see it in the aquatic one, where that you can find it phytoplanktons. These are the phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons are eaten by that your zooplanktons. Zooplanktons are eaten by the small fishes, crabs, shrimps and all. So these are that again the next level of that. And these small fishes were eaten up by that more bigger fishes, and then it may be eaten by the dolphins or sharks that, and sharks will be the considered as the topmost here. So every food chain you can find it a one topmost carnivore one. When these are interlinked to each other, when you can see that all these are interlinked to each other, they will make a food web. So here you can see that the plants are eaten by many organisms, like here that this is that deers, or you can reindeers, or you can see here is that this is the one who will also eat the plant. This is rabbits and insects which are there. Some of that insects also depends on the plant, and mouse also sometimes feed on the plant. So when one organism is a main food for different organisms, then they will create a interlinked and internetwork between each other, and that is becoming a food web. So here this herbivores which are there, they are eaten up by this again that next level carnivorous animals, and that may be a fox or rabbit also eaten by this, mouse also eaten by this. So these all are coming to the next level, which secondary consumers will be, and topmost will be that your tertiary consumers or top carnivores will be in the top level, it will higher that. So these all are eaten up by this one. So these two are, you can find it here, these two are that which are the topmost, that is carnivore here, which is the one chain from here, and this is also are interlinked to this. So these two are animals are here in this flow chart, they are the topmost carnivores. So here we can see that one level to another level when that animals go. So you can find it as if here that is a like a pyramid shape we will get it. So here you can see the relationship will be such a way you can find it a pyramid form in that food chain also, when that it is interlinked and it is made that. So topmost carnivore will be on the top, and which will be very